One signature can change who controls your finances, and many people do not realize how much authority they may be giving away. Right now, somewhere in this country, a son, a daughter, a niece, or a trusted friend is holding a piece of paper. That paper may allow them to move money, sign checks, or manage accounts on behalf of someone they love. Most of the time, that authority is used exactly the way it should be. But sometimes, it is not. And if you are a senior, or if you love someone who is, this is something you need to understand before you sign anything. Because the danger is almost never the document itself. The danger is who you hand that document to. Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you will know exactly what to look for, what to avoid, and how to protect yourself. Let's start with the basics. You may have heard the term power of attorney before. Maybe a lawyer mentioned it. Maybe a family member brought it up. Maybe you already have one. A financial power of attorney, often shortened to POA, is a legal document. It allows you to name another person to handle financial matters on your behalf. That person is called your agent. Some documents call them an attorney, in fact, but don't let that confuse you. They are not necessarily a lawyer. They are simply the person you have chosen to act for you. Depending on how the document is written, your agent may be able to pay your bills. They may be able to manage your bank accounts. They may be able to handle investments, real estate, or other financial matters. This can be incredibly useful if you become sick or injured or simply want help managing complicated finances. A good agent can be a lifesaver. It can mean bills get paid on time, even during a hospital stay. It can mean someone is watching out for you when you cannot watch out for yourself. That is the intended purpose of this document, and for many families, it works exactly as designed. But here is what most people do not think about. A POA can give someone considerable financial authority. And in many cases, that authority comes with very little day-to-day oversight. Nobody is standing over their shoulder every time they log into your bank account. Nobody is checking every transaction in real time. That is not necessarily a flaw in the system. It is simply how these documents tend to work, which means the entire system depends on one thing: trust. There is also something called a durable power of attorney. That simply means the document stays in effect even if you later become incapacitated. Without that durable language, a standard POA may actually stop working at the exact moment you need it most. Some people also choose what is called a springing POA. That means the document only becomes active once a specific condition is met, such as a doctor confirming you can no longer manage your own affairs. These details matter, and they are worth discussing with a qualified attorney rather than guessing. But regardless of which version you choose, the core issue stays the same. Once that document is active, your agent may be able to act with real financial authority. And that brings us to the real question this video is here to answer. Who should you never make your power of attorney? I want to be very clear about something. The title of this video says one person. But the danger is not about whether someone is your oldest child, your youngest child, a sibling, or a friend. The problem is not the relationship. The problem is the character of the person you are choosing. Here is what matters most. The wrong agent is often someone who is financially irresponsible, someone who has their own money problems, someone who has a history of dishonesty, even in small ways, someone who pressures you for money or seems overly interested in your finances, someone who is controlling or who tries to isolate you from other family members, someone who does not respect boundaries, and someone who would be difficult for anyone else to supervise. None of that has anything to do with blood relation. A stranger can be more trustworthy than a family member. And unfortunately, a family member can sometimes be less trustworthy than a stranger. That is the distinction that matters. Now let's talk about what can actually go wrong, because this is where things get more serious. An agent with financial authority may potentially misuse it. That could look like spending your money on themselves. It could look like making gifts to people you never approved. In some cases, it could even involve attempts to change beneficiaries on certain accounts, depending on the authority granted and applicable law. It could also look like opening new credit accounts in your name or taking out loans against property you own. It could look like selling assets without your knowledge or moving funds into accounts you cannot access. And sometimes it is not even about dramatic theft. Sometimes it is simply poor record keeping, mixing your money with theirs, or making loans to themselves that are never repaid. None of these things happen because a POA is inherently dangerous. They happen when authority is combined with a lack of oversight and a person who is willing to take advantage of that gap. I want to pause here and be honest with you. Not every POA allows every one of these actions. The specific powers your agent has depend on how the document is written and on the laws of your state. Rules can vary by state. Your document may define the authority differently, so do not assume the worst about every POA. Assume instead that the details matter, and that is exactly why this video exists. Let's walk through a few realistic examples so you can see how this plays out in real life. These are hypothetical stories. They did not happen to a specific real person, but they represent the kind of situation that financial protection organizations and elder advocacy groups warn about. Imagine a 72-year-old retiree named Linda. Linda lives alone after her husband passed away. Her nephew offers to help manage her finances, and Linda, grateful for the support, signs a POA naming him as her agent. At first, everything seems fine. He pays her bills and he checks in regularly. But over time, Linda notices some unusual charges on her bank statement. Small at first, then larger. When she asks about it, he brushes off her questions or tells her not to worry about the details. Linda trusted him because he was family. Trust should be based on character and track record, not just relationship. The warning sign here was not one huge red flag. It was a pattern of small, dismissed concerns. Now here's a second example. Imagine a 68-year-old named Robert. Robert names his longtime friend, Gary, as his financial agent. Gary has always seemed responsible, but Robert never asked anyone to review the transactions. No family member knew the POA existed. No one was checking in. When Gary went through a difficult financial period of his own, he had full access to Robert's accounts, and no one else was watching. This is not a story about Gary being evil from day one. It is a story about oversight. Even a well-intentioned agent can make poor decisions under financial pressure if nobody else is paying attention. And that leads us to a third example. Imagine an 80-year-old woman named Carol. Carol has 2 children. She names her daughter as her agent because she assumes it should automatically be the oldest child. But her daughter lives across the country, rarely visits, and has limited financial experience. Meanwhile, her son, who lives nearby and works in accounting, is never even considered. Carol did not choose based on who was most capable. She chose based on tradition. This example is not about which child is right. It's about choosing the most capable and trustworthy person for the job, rather than defaulting to birth order or assumption. Here is one more hypothetical example, because this next pattern is easy to miss. Imagine a 75-year-old man named Frank. Frank names his adult grandson as his agent, someone he has always been close to and genuinely trusts. His grandson is not dishonest, and he does not have bad intentions. But he has never managed money for anyone before, including himself. He does not keep clear records. He mixes Frank's spending with his own without meaning to. When a family member later asks to see what has been paid and what hasn't, there is no clear paper trail at all. Nothing was stolen, but nobody can prove that either, because there was never any structure in place to show it either way. This is the quieter danger. Not theft, but chaos, confusion, and a complete lack of accountability. Good intentions are not the same as good record keeping. So what are the actual warning signs you should watch for, whether you're choosing an agent or reviewing one who already has authority? Here's the warning sign I would pay attention to first. Does this person have a history of financial instability? Have they asked you for money before or hinted that they need it? Do they get defensive or evasive when asked simple questions about your finances? Do they discourage you from talking to other family members or professionals? Do they try to rush you into signing documents without giving you time to think? Do they insist on handling everything alone without letting anyone else look at statements or receipts? Do they get unusually upset or defensive when you simply ask a routine question? Have you noticed unexplained withdrawals, unfamiliar charges, or accounts you don't remember opening? Has your mail or online banking access changed without a clear explanation? Any one of these on its own may not mean much. People get defensive for all kinds of reasons that have nothing to do with wrongdoing. But when you see a pattern, several of these signs showing up together, that is when you should slow down and take a closer look. Trust your instincts here. If something feels off, it is worth asking questions, even if it feels uncomfortable. Now, this does not mean every power of attorney is dangerous. The goal is not to avoid planning. The goal is to plan carefully. So let's talk about how to actually protect yourself. First, choose your agent based on character, not convenience. Ask yourself honestly, does this person handle their own finances responsibly? Do they have a track record of following through and being transparent? Second, consider limiting the scope of authority. A POA does not have to grant unlimited power over everything you own. Depending on your state and your specific document, you may be able to define exactly which powers your agent has and which they do not. Talking with a qualified attorney can help you understand what limits are available to you. For example, some people choose to authorize their agent to handle everyday bills and banking, but not real estate transactions. Others choose to require a second signature for anything above a certain dollar amount. There is no single correct structure. The right structure is the one that matches your specific situation, your assets, and your comfort level. Third, build in accountability. One practical step is requiring your agent to keep clear records of transactions made on your behalf. You can also ask them to report those records periodically to another trusted person, such as a second family member or a financial professional. This does not have to feel like an accusation. It can simply be framed as good practice, the same way a business tracks its own expenses. You might also consider naming a cogent, someone who must sign off alongside your primary agent for larger transactions. Some banks also offer account alerts or monitoring tools that notify a second trusted person whenever unusual activity occurs. None of these steps require you to distrust the person you have chosen. They simply add structure, and structure protects everyone involved, including your agent. Fourth, let the right people know the document exists. Consider telling a trusted family member, friend, or financial advisor that you have a POA in place and who your agent is. This does not mean broadcasting your private financial details to everyone. It means having at least one other set of eyes who could potentially notice if something seems unusual. Fifth, review your POA periodically. Life circumstances change, relationships change. A person who was a great choice 5 years ago may not be the best choice today. Maybe their financial situation has changed. Maybe your relationship has changed. Maybe you simply learned something new about how they handle responsibility. Reviewing your document every few years or after any major life event is a simple habit that can save you a great deal of trouble later. Oh, here's the part that surprises many families. You are generally not stuck with a decision forever. In most cases, as long as you still have the legal capacity to make decisions, you can update or revoke a POA. Again, the specific process can depend on your state and on the document itself. So this is something worth confirming with a qualified attorney. But the key point is this: POA is not necessarily permanent, and it does not have to be all or nothing. It also does not need to be a single, sweeping grant of power over everything you own. You can often choose to authorize only certain types of transactions or set a limit on the dollar amount your agent can move without additional approval. You can revisit those limits later if your needs change. This is your document built around your life, not a one-size-fits-all form. Sixth, when in doubt, get professional guidance. An elder law attorney can help you draft a document that fits your specific situation rather than relying on a generic template. They can also help explain what protections may be available in your state. An attorney can also walk you through alternatives, such as trusts or joint accounts, and explain how those options compare to a POA for your specific goals. Resources from organizations like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the Federal Trade Commission, and the U.S. Administration for Community Living can also offer general guidance on financial exploitation and protective planning for older adults. These are not sales organizations. They exist specifically to help people like you make informed decisions. But let's bring this all together. A financial power of attorney is a tool. Like most tools, it can be incredibly helpful in the right hands. It can also create risk if it ends up in the wrong hands, or if it is used without any oversight at all. The key distinction is not family versus stranger or old versus young. The key distinction is trustworthiness, financial responsibility, and accountability. Choose someone who has shown you, through their actions, that they can be trusted with real responsibility. It's not someone who simply expects the role because of their place in the family. Remember Linda, Robert, Carol, and Frank? None of them were careless people. They simply trusted the relationship more than they evaluated the person. You do not have to make that same assumption. You can love someone deeply and still decide they are not the right choice to manage your finances. Those two things are not in conflict. Build an oversight where you can. Keep the lines of communication open with people you trust. And do not be afraid to ask questions, set boundaries, or seek a second opinion before you sign anything. This video is not meant to scare you away from planning. Planning ahead is one of the most responsible things you can do for yourself and for the people who love you. The goal is simply to make sure that planning is done carefully, with the right person and with the right safeguards in place. If someone in your life is currently facing this decision, a parent, a spouse, a sibling, or a friend, consider sharing this video with them. It might be exactly the conversation they need to have before they sign anything. I would also love to hear from you. In the comments, tell me this. What is one quality you believe matters most when choosing someone to trust with your finances? If you found this video helpful, consider subscribing, because we cover topics just like this one, designed to help you and your family stay informed and protected. Thank you for watching, and take care of yourself and the people you love.